Hey guys, and welcome to the Car Flip Show, episode number 7. Hope you're doing well today. We have a few questions we're going to be answering in today's show. And those questions are actually questions from our Facebook group. And if you're not a member of our Facebook group right now, we're actually recording this live in the group. If you're not a member, if you go to thecarflipshow.com, at the top of the page, there's going to be a bar that says something to the effect of, do you want to know more about flipping cars? If you'll enter your email address in there, we'll send you an email. It should come immediately. There'll be a link in that email that you can actually click on. It'll send you to the group. You'll subscribe and you'll be a part of our group. It's not just me posting in there. Actually, there's probably more people posting than me, asking questions, helping one another. A lot of times when someone posts a question, there are 3 or 4 people that have already answered before I even get to it. But we do things like we're doing right now. Actually, to the side of our camera right now, there's a phone, and we're doing a Facebook Live of this currently. So I'd love to see you there in the Facebook group. But our questions today actually come from the Facebook group, and I've got 3. And we'll start out with a question from Rafa. And actually, this question is not from Rafa. I've lost, there it goes. This question is from Ryan. Rafa's question will actually be in the next episode of the Car Flip Show. But Ryan's question is, I have trouble choosing a car to flip. I have a hard time seeing deals available. Any tips on finding them faster? And Ryan, for folks that are just starting out flipping cars, this is a really common question. I get this all the time. And it really boils down to 2 things. And those things are automation and consistency. Automation meaning, how are you looking for those deals? You can start out with, where are you looking? Craigslist is a really, probably the most, I guess there's probably more deals on Craigslist than you're going to find anywhere else. Now, Facebook Marketplace is a place that's popped up here recently in the past few months. I'm there a lot. I'm in Craigslist a lot. Occasionally, I'm going to look at LetGo and an app like OfferUp. You can find things on those sites. And if you wanted to, you could grab a newspaper and look there. Deals are everywhere. You're going to ride by and pass them as you drive to work every day on the side of the road in people's yards. But Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, those are my 2 go-to sources. So for me, I have Craigslist automated to the point that when I pull out my phone, there is a link on my homepage. It's going to look like an app, but all it is I've went to Craigslist on my phone. So I've got on Safari, or if you use your Google, there's different browsers, but for me, I'm using Safari. In Safari, when I'm on Craigslist, I go to craigslist.org, put in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then I'm going to search for cars by owner. Looking at cars by dealer would be a waste of time because they're in it to make money and you can't blame them. So I'm going to by owner, and then I also want to look at cars in a certain price range. So for me, let's say I want to buy a car for around $3,000 or less. I'm not going to just look at cars $3,000 and below. I'm going to look at cars, say 5 or 6. There's actually a search on my phone right now and it says 6K Raleigh. So it's everything posted by owner in Raleigh, North Carolina for $6,000 and below. And the reason I'm going to post or look in that $6,000, that $3,000 to $6,000 would seem like a waste of time because you don't have that much money. But there are deals, like I just bought a car the other day. They were asking $9,000. I bought it for $6,500. So if someone's asking $55,000 or $57,000, and maybe it's been up there a while, you can sometimes buy them for less. So I'm going to be looking in that under 6K, 6,000 price range. So I'm going to save that search. On mine, there's an option at the bottom. If you click, you can save a bookmark or you can save a link to your homepage. And I've actually done a video about this. We might can post it in the links or in the comments down on YouTube. We might can post it here on Facebook. We're doing the Facebook Live. But we're going to save that search to the homepage. So when I get on my phone to look for deals, I don't have to go to Craigslist. I don't have to dig through dealer posts. I don't have to look at all the cars that are $25,000, $30,000 because that's out of my price range. So I'm only looking at cars that I would be interested in buying. When you do that save search, you can also see what you've looked at, because on my phone, when I click on a link, if you're on Craigslist, all the links that you're seeing are blue. So when you click on a link, it turns purple on my phone at least. So as I'm scrolling down that list, when I get to one that's purple, I know I've already clicked on that. I know that I've already seen that. One of the first things I do when I click on that is I click the first car on the list to go ahead and make it turn purple. That way, the next time I'm scrolling through, when I see that purple link, I know to stop. I don't want to waste my time seeing things I've already seen. So automation would be number 1. Make it easy on yourself. Don't spend time digging through things that aren't in your price range or dealer cars. It's a waste of time. The second thing would be consistency. Now, automation makes this a lot easier because consistency is basically you doing this on a regular basis, whether it's every 30 minutes, where it's every 3 hours. Maybe you're at work and you can't use your phone. Maybe it's on your lunch break. Maybe it's when you get off. So maybe first thing you get up, you scan. You get to work, your lunch break, you're scanning. You get a break in the afternoon, you're scanning. When you're leaving the office, when you're walking to your car, maybe you're scanning your phone for deals. You've got to be consistent because there are a lot of deals that are popping up during the day that you're never going to see because maybe it was a really good deal. Actually, the car that I bought for $6,500 the other day, there's probably a lot of people that were looking for a Jeep Wrangler at a competitive price, but I bought it before they even saw it. So you've got to be on the ball. You got to be finding these deals because some people just want to get rid of a car right now. Like they need the money, maybe they just really need the cash and they post it at a very competitive price. You've got to be there to see it before somebody else does because you're not the only person in your area that's doing this. There's other car dealers, there's other people that flip cars, there are just people that are looking for cars in general and they might see it before you. So you want to be consistent, and automating it makes it a lot easier to be consistent because it's not something that's hard for you to do or difficult for you to set this search up in your phone every single time individually. Automate it and then be consistent. That'll help you find more deals and see more deals because other people won't get them before you do. The next question as I load up on this phone here is from Daniel. This is a question that I don't get asked a ton, but it is pertinent for flippers, and that's what if somebody knows you're a car flipper and they're looking for a car and they ask you to find them a car. Now for me, being a used car dealer, I have my dealer's license. I have a location here in a main spot right outside of downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. I have people all the time that come in and say, hey, could you find me a fill in the blank. Actually just had someone the other day looking for a Toyota Sienna, and they wanted certain mileage, they wanted to stay in a certain price range, they wanted leather. DVD would have been nice, but it wasn't a must, and they knew the price range they wanted to be in, and they knew the market. They had already done the research, so they knew what these Toyota Siennas were selling for. And so Daniel's question was specifically, how do you handle buying specific request from friends? So for him, he's apparently had someone related to him or a good friend that's asked them to buy a car for him. He says, do you charge X amount over and try to get a specific car at auction? Example, they want a Suburban or a Yukon Denali, no older than 2007, no more than 150,000 miles, and no more than $12,000 cost. And you found one coming through the auction. His question is basically, how do you handle that? Now, a lot of you watching this video aren't going to have access to the dealer auction, and that's okay because you can actually sometimes find better deals on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace from individuals than you even can at auction. But he's basically asking, how do you handle that? Do you go in and just buy this thing and hope they're going to pay you? Do you take a certain amount down? And actually, before I got in there to answer this question, Jeremy in our Facebook group had answered. He said basically what he does, he gets 20% of the retail price. So basically what the car is going to sell for or what they want to spend, he's getting 20% of that down ahead of time, which is not a bad thing to do. Now, if I'm doing this for a friend or a relative or someone that I know and that I'm not worried about, personally, a lot of times I don't do that. This person that I sold this car to recently, I made it very clear ahead of time that if I buy this car for you, now barring it's got a blown engine or a bad transmission or something just that we couldn't see coming, that would be an extenuating circumstance that we could take into account. But if I buy this car is yours, and we're going to know the price somewhere close to what it's going to go for. We're going to know everything ahead of time that I can know. I drove the car, I looked at it, we knew it was a good car, but if I buy it, it's yours. And I'm very clear up front with people when I am buying cars for them. Now, if it's someone that walks in off the street, say here to my location, they say, hey, I want a 2007 Tahoe. I'm going to say, okay, no problem, we can do that for you. And I would let them know ballpark what I think one of those would go for. I would probably ask them what they've seen them going for to make sure that they're realistic on their price. A lot of people, when you're going to buy a car for them, they think everything at the auction is half price or that you're going to get it for nothing. They think as a flipper that you're going to be able to save them, if it's a $7,000 car, they think you're going to be able to buy it for $3,000. That's not the case. So you want to make sure they're realistic, that you're not wasting their time. If it's someone off the street, I'm probably going to go with what Jeremy's saying. I'm probably going to be in that 20% down, whether I'm going to give them a flat fee, I need $2,000 up front and we'll find you the car, or maybe 20% down. You can kind of play that with what you think the people will be comfortable with. There's no definite 100% right answer. You've got to know the people, if you can trust them, if they trust you enough to give you money down ahead of time. That would stop them from maybe looking at all the car dealerships around you. There's nothing more frustrating than spending hour upon hour. I mean, I've spent 10 hours looking for someone a car, only to have them call me and say, hey, I actually found a car up the road and you've done all that work, and you get nothing. If they give you some money down, they're a lot less prone to go spend money down the street because they've already committed fully to you. So that would be my answer. If you can get money up front, great. If you know the person, you feel like you can trust them, maybe you don't have to, but if it's someone that you don't have a very good relationship with, definitely get some money down so you don't waste your time there. All right, our last question is from Joe Doyle, and it says, I see a lot of people saying they buy junk cars, but I can't find much info on that. How does that work? Is that something worth getting into? And in short, yes, it can be. Now, there's two different types of junk cars. There are like salvaged vehicles that have been in an accident, that have been damaged. So many percentage, I guess it's so much of a percentage of its worth. So I want to think it's 75%, and I may be off on that, but if a car is damaged so far, insurance is not going to pay to have it fixed. They're just going to total it. So you're going to get a check for that. So those would go to either a salvage yard if it's insurance, but if somebody gets in a wreck and they don't have full coverage, a vehicle could be sold on Craigslist or through other means, but that would be the one type. The other type of junk car, which I would prefer to deal with, is a car that has maybe a bad engine or a bad transmission. Maybe you'll see it on Craigslist or the Facebook Marketplace and it says, it doesn't run, we don't know why. Now you've got to be careful in those situations because sometimes they do know why, but they're just saying it's probably something simple. As a rule of thumb, if it's something simple, generally people will take care of it. So if they say it just needs a fuel pump or it just needs a battery, there are certain things you want to look for. Like if it needs a fuel pump, when you turn a key on, generally with the fuel pump, you're going to hear a little, like a high-pitched noise coming from the rear of the vehicle, specifically the gas tank, because that's where your fuel pump is. So if you turn the key on, if you can run back there real quick or have someone stick their ear right where your gas fill nozzle is going into the vehicle, if you take the gas cap off, if you listen, most of the time you can hear it without that, but just to be sure, you could see if you hear that fuel pump coming on. If you don't hear it coming on, it's a good chance you have a fuel pump issue. But just because someone says it has a fuel pump issue or they say it has a battery issue, you don't want to take them at their word on that. You definitely want to know what to look for. But if you know up front for sure that a car has a mechanical issue, you're going to be able to buy that car for pennies on the dollar, as opposed to a car that I just bought. Well, I say just bought, I've had it for probably 3-4 months. It was a 2008 Saturn Outlook, and that's actually the exact same vehicle as a Chevrolet Traverse or a GMC Acadia. GM owned Saturn at this time, so it's same engine, same transmission, same interior actually. But I got it in. I actually bought this one at auction. It was sold with a green light, meaning the engine's guaranteed, the transmission's guaranteed. There's supposed to be no problems. You can even drive it after the auction to be sure. There were no check engine lights. The engine sounded good. The transmission shifted smooth. All the fluids were good. I mean, there was nothing that I could find wrong with the car. I pull it out of the auction, and with an auction, if there is a guarantee, this is generally only at dealer-only auctions. Once you drive out of the auction, that guarantee is intact until you pull out. A lot of your private auctions or auctions to the public, most of the time those cars are all as is. There are some exceptions, but at a dealer auction, there's different levels of, I guess, guarantees, and this one was a green light, which is really good. I pull out of the auction, I'm on the way home, it's about a 45-minute drive, and the check engine light comes on, and so I was like, well, probably no big deal. I mean, the car's running fine, the temperature's good, there's no apparent issues. So I got back, I checked the code, and it was for a catalytic converter, and it actually had bank 1 and bank 2 catalytic converters showing on the code. So I said, well, I mean, that's really not that big of a deal. I went on eBay. I think I bought both of them for $300 as opposed to going to Advance Auto Parts and paying $300 a piece. So we got them in, my mechanic pulls them off. It was a good job to get to them, especially the rear converter because it was up behind the engine. He had to finagle it out. But we got them replaced, cleared the code, I drove it, and the same code actually came back. Initially I had 420, PO 420 and PO 430. Those are both, that's bank 1 catalyst deficiency and bank 2 catalyst deficiency. Bank 2 came back, which is odd because we had brand new converters. So I figured, well, it must have something to do with the exhaust. We had noticed a little rattle in the rear muffler, so we said, well, maybe something blew out. Your catalytic converter, there's a little substrate in there that filters out the exhaust as it's going through. So we said, well, something must have broke loose, blew through the exhaust, and maybe it's clogging the muffler or it's clogging the resonator. So I actually took it to a exhaust shop, had those parts replaced, had them actually look in the exhaust pipes with a camera. He didn't see anything, so everything was replaced. So I said, well, surely now we're good. That was like $300 more that I spent there on the exhaust. And so as I'm driving home, I actually went to the exhaust shop, picked it up, came to my dealership, and went to leave to go home. I got halfway between my dealership and my house. I was actually on the way to go work out. I had like my workout clothes in the back. My 6-year-old was actually with me in the back. He's in his car seat. And all of a sudden it started running funny and we heard a pop. I mean, it wasn't a real loud, but it was a definite, there was a pop, and the car just decelerated automatically. We're going up a hill, and so we barely made it off the road, put the flashers on. I did the basic checks, tried to start it, nothing, and had it towed back to my dealership. My mechanic looked it over. We didn't have the right readings for the front bank, which was actually bank 2. So I was like, well, this kind of makes sense. I had bank 2 catalyst deficiency. Let's see what's going on. He thought maybe we just need a timing chain, or maybe the tensioners. It might not be too bad. He pulled it apart and he sent me a picture, and he actually had the chain laying on the floor. The chain had snapped. So because the chain had snapped, it bent some of the valves. Long story short, I had to pull the whole front head off, had it take it to a machine shop. They machined it, replaced the valves, put it back together. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I really didn't want to spend that extra $1,500 on top of the $300 for the converters and the labor, and on top of the $300 for the exhaust work. But I said, at least now the car is going to be right. Drove it home after having all that work done, after writing a check for $1,500 for the parts and labor. And on the way home, it didn't break down this time, but the check engine light came back on, and it was for P0430, which is catalyst deficiency bank 2. Now it makes no sense. I've got new plugs. When we're doing the work, we replaced the plugs, we replaced the timing chain, we replaced the tensioners, we had the head reworked, had new valves put in. I've got a brand new catalytic converter. I've got new exhaust going all the way out under the vehicle, and I still have a P430, which for me as a dealer, I can't even sell it because I can't get it to pass inspection. In North Carolina, it has to pass emissions inspection as a dealer. Now, as a flipper, selling it on the side, you wouldn't have to worry about the inspection side, but I do. So the point of that whole story is, if you buy a junk car mechanically, you want to know you're buying a junk car, because if this issues were known at the auction, and there are certain lanes where things are disclosed, there's even one lane that are non-runners, which you can get great deals as far as what it would sell for if it was a good car. If this car had a broke timing chain in the junk lane at the auction, I would have bought it for $1,000, $1,500. Instead, I paid over $5,000, and now I've got an additional $2,000 minimum. I mean, more than that I put in it. So best case, I get this figured out and I sell it and I break even. Maybe I make 500 bucks. That's not what you want to do on the junk car side. You should be buying cars for pennies on the dollar. If it's a $5,000 car, that you might could have bought for $3 or $35 if it was a good running car. So you want to, have that $2,000, $1,500 profit margin for you to make. If it's a junk car, as if it needs an engine or a transmission, you should be paying $1,000 or $1,500. If you can do this work on your own, if you know how to do the engine replacements or the transmission replacements, or if you know how to do a fuel pump or diagnose, because sometimes people think it's a bigger issue and it's really not. Sometimes you can get by with a transmission service. You can replace the filter and maybe it'll be okay. Sometimes people think they have a knock, but it's really something unrelated to that, where you can make the money by fixing it yourself. There's big money to be made, but instead of paying that $3,000 to make $5,000, maybe you can spend $1,000, put $700 into it, and so you're at $1,700. you get yourself a bigger profit margin, or at minimum, maybe you have less invested, so you can invest that time, that sweat equity, and make that money on the back end. So junk cars definitely can be a good way to find deals, to make money. Going back to the beginning, there's the salvage way to go on that. There's the wreck car. Then there's the engines, transmissions, the mechanical side of it. The one reason that I would lean more towards the mechanical side of it is if you buy a salvage title vehicle, if you go to a junk auction or an insurance auction and you buy that car, when you get it home, you could fix it, you can repair it, you can make it better than it was, better than new. But when you sell the car, you're gonna hand the title over and it's gonna say salvage, it's gonna say rebuilt. But if you repair the car, if you fix the mechanical issues, then you're going to have a car that is gonna be the same as another car because it's gonna have a clean title. So I would rather go to the mechanical side than I would the salvage side, but there's definitely money to be made on both ends. So that's all for this episode. If you like what you saw in this episode, please subscribe here on YouTube. You can click the subscribe button. You'll see more of these videos as they post. And if you're not subscribed to our email list, just go to thecarflip.com, enter your email at the top of the page, and we'll send you a link to our Facebook group, which we'd love to have you a part of. I'll see you guys in the next episode.